Hey guys, so we're going to do another playthrough video for RailSIM and go over some of the new features I've added in the last week or so. As you can see on the screen at the moment, I'm just looking at the dev poll that we run last week. We had a pretty good turnout. I'm impressed. 37 votes, we're about 107 members, so it's over a third of everyone has voted. So that's pretty good. In terms of what I've added, if we go through, so the top, the most voted or most asked for feature was the enabling building on Numpad. As you can see, I implemented this early on in the week. I'll show you guys how that works. The second one was to add more industries and raw materials. So I started work on this on Saturday morning, and it's been an absolute nightmare getting this stuff in. I really wanted to go to town with it and put in as many industries as I could, give the game a lot of variety, which I've managed to do, but it's created a lot of problems for me in particular, a lot of bugs and stuff like that, which I've literally spent most of today fixing. Also trying to balance out the game with so many different industries. It's been pretty tough as well. But anyway, it's pretty much ready for me to show you guys on what I've done. The third most voted for feature was to rewrite the code for signaling, but unfortunately I spent so much time on the industries, I just didn't have any time to get that signaling function done. But it is on my list of things to do next, and I will carry that over into next week's poll, which I will put up on Reddit soon. Before we start, I just want to give a big thanks to our first two Patreon subscribers who are now active beta testers for RailSIM. So a big thank you there to Ned and to David for pledging support for RailSIM, see the development move forward. So yeah, big thanks for that, guys. And there is, as you probably know, there's now a live chat feature within RailSIM. I'll show you that in a moment. You can actually use it to have a direct line of communication with myself. If you're beta testing RailSIM and you run into any problems, then you can just pull up the live chat widget and you can get straight through to me right away. Obviously, I'm based in the UK. If you're based anywhere around the world and we're in different time zones, I might not be available to reply. But your chats, if they don't get answered straight away, it automatically gets converted into a ticket, and I get an email anyway. So if you've got any bugs to report, just use the live chat feature to report. If I don't respond straight away, I'll get straight on it anyway and try and fix it. If you can, try and attach some screenshots and some videos as well of showing particular bugs. Also some info about what browsers you're using. I primarily use Firefox, so I'm using the latest version of Firefox, and I'm using a Mac as well, but that doesn't really make any difference. It's really just on the browser. But I know a lot of people use Chrome and perhaps a couple of other browsers, but it's only really been tested on Chrome and Firefox, and there may be limited compatibility with older browsers. I haven't tested this on older browsers, and to be honest, I don't really intend to. So yeah, if you can, try and make sure you've got the latest browsers when you are using the beta version of RailSIM. Just get the latest version of Chrome, the latest version of Firefox, just to make sure you're using the version that's been tested the most. Anyway, enough chatting. Let me jump in and show you what we got. Right, so there's a couple of things I want to talk about today. I did make a list. Bear with me a sec. Okay. Yeah, so there's a couple of features which have gone in. Obviously, the features, the two most voted for features have gone in, and I'm going to show you that in a second. But on top of that as well, I've also implemented something else. and I'm going to show you how that works as well. So it's a bit of a bonus, something I was working on towards the end of last week, and yeah, I managed to finish that up this week as well. So that's pretty cool. So I will show you that. Right, let's dive in. So this is now the current latest version of RailSIM, and if you've watched the previous videos, you may notice that it's a little bit different, a little bit colourful. So yeah, so let me just go through and just show you some stuff that we got. As you can see now, the game icons are now coloured depending on the the type of raw material that it is. There are a lot of raw materials. I think it's about 38 in total now, commodities that you can go. So if I click on this little icon here, I can switch between the global commodities. So this is a list of all of the commodities in the game that I've implemented. All of these work, and you can trade these in the game. The only two which are not, there are a couple which, let's have a look. So we got things like I think gasoline. Gasoline is an output product from sending crude oil to an oil refinery, and the output, the byproduct of that is gasoline. And there are a couple of others that do that as well. The outputs are not built yet. I haven't quite finished the coding for that, but the base raw material to industry, raw material to factory, for example, that's all working fine. I know gasoline's one of them, and I think the goods as well, the perishable goods and consumer goods, those are not coded up yet either, but they will be very soon. Right, okay. As you can see, the initial, I've just loaded this game, so this is a fresh new game. The initial starting prices are a bit different to what they were before. Before when we just had passengers and coal in the previous videos, the starting prices for those were, everything was just set to the same unit price. It was just $100, regardless of whether you were starting with passengers. Obviously it would change as you played the game, with inflation and things like that, but now that I've put in all of these different commodities, because they've got different units of measurement and things like that, I've really had to sit down and think about how to balance this out. Okay, so one of the first things you might notice is that the starting balance in the game is now $100,000 and not $1 million. And the reason for that is because with the prices, with the unit prices of the commodities as you see them there, which have obviously been adjusted so to balance the game out, it means the game starts off with a very low inflation rate, which means the actual cost of building is relatively cheap, or really cheap in fact. So you can build a nice little network of rail, for a starting balance of 100,000. You will probably go into a little bit of debt when you start off, as soon as you start buying some locomotives and wagons and things like that, but that's neither here or there, to be honest. I'm pretty sure you'll soon make it back, as long as you figure out how to make a profit. Anyway, right, let's just have a look around and just see what we've got. So let me switch that back. If I switch that back, what I get there is that this switches between the global list of commodities in the game, which shows you everything and the current price of everything, and this screen will probably be used in the future for actually buying stocks in these commodities. So you'll be able to buy shares in commodities to kind of fluctuate the price up and down and what have you, kind of like a mini little stock market, if you like. But if you switch to this view, this is the local view. So this is the pricing for the commodities is global, and we'll probably implement a multiplayer element to the game, in that the commodity prices will be based on a global multiplayer basis. So the commodity prices will sort of begin with our current beta testers and their play testing of the game, and then the game will just continue on from there. So the plan is to have the commodity prices just adjust and fluctuate as various players play the game. You know, you come onto the game today and the prices will be such and such, and then you go on tomorrow and they may have changed if other players have come on and they've had a go in the economy as well. So it adds a multiplayer element without the game being direct multiplayer, as in having, you know, sort of your competitors' railway lines running on the screen. That is something that, you know, it's in the pipeline to be done in the future, so I'd be hoping to get that in, you know, in a not so distant future, but I've certainly got some more urgent things to do at the moment on this. But anyway, the view that you've got at the moment, so you've got global gives you your list of everything, so you can see the price of everything. At the moment, the prices of the commodities is not changing unless you're actually running trains back and forth, you know, carrying the stuff. So it doesn't really do an awful lot at the moment, but it does show you, you know, what is available in the game. And then if you switch back to the local view basically just shows you the commodities that you are actually trading at the moment in the game. So if you're running trains between two stations and you're collecting oats, for example, and you're taking it to an oat mill for processing, then the commodities of oats will show here, and you'll see the price, and it'll be fluctuating and what have you. So because there's so many commodities in the game now, it didn't make sense to have a big list if you weren't trading them. It just didn't make any sense. So I've just created this local view just to make it a lot easier. Right, so I'm going to have a look around, and I'm going to find. So what we have, you have coloured icons for the raw materials, if you like, and then you have the grey icons here as the actual processing plants and factories and things like that. So let's just have a look. So we've got corn there, and we've got corn mill there. So we could do a little run by there. That's fine. So we've got dairy processing plant, and we've got milk there. Look, so we could run milk from here to the dairy processing plant up there. We've got soybeans here to the soybean processing plant down there. We have a look, sugarcane. Yeah, we could run. Rapeseed to the processing plant there. We've got an oat mill. We've got some crude oil, gold. Some lumber as well. Right, so what we can do, which is brand new, is we can actually click on the industries, and they now have a sidebar, which they never previously have. It's only a basic sidebar, but it does give you some indication of what the average supply is for that industry itself. It gives you an idea. Now, when we last played the game last week, all of the wagons in the game had a maximum load of 100 units, whatever the unit was, whether it's tons or passengers or whatever. Now all of that's been adjusted, so the max loads for the various wagons varies depending on the type of commodity that the type of cargo that you're transporting, and that those calculations are being taken into consideration when it's working out the average number of cars that you get in here on average supply. And this is an average supply per minute in the game. That's sort of running minute of the game, and I will actually show you in a moment when we build some track and we build a route. I'll actually show you where there's on the route assignments for the trains, you can actually see the length of time it'll actually take a train to run between routes, so you can kind of get an idea of, right, how long is it going to take this train, you know, how long is this route, and then you can kind of work it all out. So it's good to have a pen and paper, you know, to write it all down, because it's sometimes it can, you know, be a bit difficult to work out to get it absolutely spot on. So anyway, I'm talking a lot, but I'm not really doing a lot. So let's just have a look. So we've got, same with the processing plants as well. So we've got soybean processing plant, for example. So the average demand here is 1,171 tons of soybeans. So an average demand of 9.76 cars per minute. Oil refinery, 109,000 gallons of crude oil. So that's, you would think, right, 109,000, blimey, that's a lot, but it's not. It's only 4.88 cars because of the size of the tankers and the carrying capacity that they can hold. So I'm going to run. Yep. Oh, I think I'm probably going to run some sugar. Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll build a station here, and we'll start a line from here to here. Right. So first of all, before I start, let me just show you the new building without a numpad feature, because it was the highest requested, and it does allow you to play this game without a numpad. So say for example you've got a laptop and it hasn't got a numpad on it. I know lots of laptops haven't got numpads on them, and yeah, you're probably right. It was mentioned, you know, you probably would want to play the game, you know, on your laptop in bed or something like that, and without a numpad you would, you know, previously you'd be unable to. But we've now fixed that issue, and what we have here, we've introduced a gamepad. And what we can do with the gamepad, if we click this icon at the top, we have our gamepad here. And what we can do with the gamepad is, instead of using a numpad, it's just a virtual numpad on the screen. So if I wanted to build some track, I can just click on track and I can build like so. Simple as that. How easy is that? That's really cool, yeah? And you can do the same with stations. So I can click stations and I can build, you know, I'm building down, so I'm building a sort of terminus. There we go. And I'm going to build a station here as well. Obviously I can still use the numpad, you can, it both works at the same time. Yeah, I want to build a depot down here. Cool. So yeah, so that's pretty much, you can use this delete button in the middle as well. So if you want to delete track, you can, you know, you can highlight piece of track like that and press delete and then delete it. Right, that's instead of pressing the delete key on the keyboard. Right, okay, so let me close that. So the workshop, so this is something else which has been changed. This is from a suggestion in the comments I saw on Reddit. Very good suggestion, and I implemented straight away because it does make a lot of difference. So what we've done, we've moved the navigation icons to the top, so that when you're clicking through the various cars, for example, you're not constantly going up and down like that. So let's just build a locomotive first. So there we go, and minimize that. What are we running? We're running sugar. Sugar needs to be in a covered hopper, such as grain and sugar. Must be protected from the weather. So things, the descriptions are not exhaustive. There are some. It only tells you things like grain and sugar. But at the moment, there isn't a list specifically shown in the workshop that tells you exactly which cargoes you can run with this wagon type. But you can just apply common sense, and I'm sure. I think there's only about 7 or 8 different wagons in the game anyway now. It's pretty self-explanatory what stuff does. So we're going to need some bulk freight covered hoppers. I'll just go through them actually. So we've got, obviously we still got the BR Mark 1 passenger coach. That's got a carrying capacity of 64 passengers. We've got general utility van for carrying mail, so 360 bags of mail. We've got the bulk freight open hopper, so for things like coal, bulk freight really, so things like coal, iron ore and things like that. So 125 tons with a bulk freight open hopper. We've got the bulk freight covered hopper, so things like grain, cargoes that really need protecting from the weather, for example, so like sort of food cargoes if you like. We've got a mineral wagon, which is a smaller, less expensive, only carries 90 tons, but it can carry again things like coal and ores and mined minerals. The mineral wagon is an open top, so you can't carry food stuff in it. Then we've got a non-hazardous tank car, so the only compatible cargo with that right now is milk. That's not why the tank is white, but it kind of does make sense. So yeah, but that's your non-hazardous tank car. That's 102,000 litres. And then you've got the hazardous tank car for things like oil, or liquid gas, gasoline, ethanol, things like that. That's in gallons instead of litres. So the carrying capacity is 22,400 gallons. Then we've got a lumber wagon for carrying lumber, 125 tons of lumber. We've got a cattle wagon, which is 218,000 pounds. Now these numbers, I haven't just made these numbers up. I have done a bit of research on these numbers to make them reasonable, reasonably realistic. I did some very weird calculations to do with the average weight of cows and things like that to arrive at these figures. So they do make sense in some way or another. So yeah, 218,000 pounds of cattle. That's for carrying obviously livestock. There's two types of livestock in the game. That you've got cattle, obviously, so cows and things like that, and you've also got hog, so obviously pigs. Then we've got an intermodal container. Now this wasn't shown on the sneak peek video that I put up on Reddit because I was still in the process of doing it when I done that video, but yeah, straight after that I added the intermodal containers. So this is for transporting transporting the consumer goods and the perishable goods, which are not yet active in the game. So like I said, they're the outputs from the factories, which you'll need to use a container wagon for. But at the moment the factories are not outputting any goods because I've not written the code yet. But when they do, you'll need to use the intermodal container for that. So it's 60 tons, which again is relatively realistic for a flatbed loader like Then we've got an armoured security car, and this is for carrying valuables. So if I just go to the commodities, so we've got 5 types of valuables in the game, which is gold, palladium, platinum, rhodium and silver. If you're carrying these, there are no direct industries for these, but they do go to cities. So the cities will demand the valuables, and then the cities will, once it's built, turn the valuables into consumer goods, which you can then transport out of the city to other cities, for example. So you'll need an armoured security car for transporting any of the 5 valuables. Okay, anyway, I'm blabbing on. What I need is a covered hopper for my sugar. So I'm just going to have a look at the I'm just going to look at the output. So it's going to give me six cars a minute. So yeah, we could be looking at, by the time we get there and back, could be looking at like 12 cars. We can only put 9 on the local. The Coronation class can only carry 9. So I think we'll put 9 on. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There we go. So we've got 9 of those. Let's put them all in automatic, so we don't have to. What I might do is actually put the default mode to automatic rather than manual. I think that might make more sense. Set a route. Okay. On we go. There we go, and we'll just switch that over to our local trade view, and as soon as we start trading sugar, there we are, look. So we've got sugar on our local trade, so we'll take the sugar up, and we got full load. And we'll send it on its way. Cool. So let me see. Just wait for this to arrive. So 11,000 is not bad. Send it back so then we can then stick it in auto, like so, and then we can just let it do its thing for us. And then we can have a quick look. Oh wow. Blimey, that's surely wrong. Yeah, there's no way. Yeah, that's definitely a bug. That's a bug. Yeah. Yeah, there's almost 5,000 tons that waiting. But I can't see how there's that much. Yeah. Yeah, I'll need to take a look at that. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Something else that has changed is that trains, they have loading times. So the longer the train, and the more cargo it's carrying, the longer its loading time will be. So that's obviously worth bearing in mind as well. as I was just mentioning there, if you look on the route assignment for your train, you'll see we've got departs from Highbridge, and then ETA is 1 minute to High Peak Parkway and then 1 minute back. So you can use that to, when you're looking at your your per minutes. Obviously this is wrong, but this would be a normal amount in normal circumstances. But yeah, that's one way of working out how long is it going to take for the train to do a sort of round trip. Obviously you have to bear in mind some loading time in that as well, to try and work it out. Right, so now we've built that, we've got, I'm trying to think what else we can do. So yeah, so we can obviously continue building, sort of playing the game as we normally would, but that's not what I want to show you. What I want to show you is something else that I've been working on, and to show you how it works, I'm just going to build in some empty space. So let's see. So let's say we had let's put track mode on. Let's say we got track, and we've got track like so, and then we'll build a station and then a platform, station and a platform. And then what we'll do is we'll create crossovers, like so. Okay, so the idea of this, just build a depot. So the idea is this, is that we'll run 2 trains using up and down lines. So and we can do this with no signals with this type of layout. Now obviously the signaling function is sort of next on my list, and that will allow us to create blocks which would then allow you to create something like this. Once the signaling function goes in, we'll be able to do this. So you'll be able to have just a loop and then a station either end like that, and then you'll be able to add I can kind of show you this because the signals do work. Well, they don't work. You can build them, but they don't have any function. But let's have a look. So you would put a signal there, for example, and then put a signal there, for example. And then what you would do, you would also want to put a signal there, and you would want to put a signal there, for example. And then what it would do is it would create a block. So the train would depart from here, and you would tell it to go there, and then initially what will happen is the train will create a route to the signal, and that will then become an active block, which means no other train can then be routed onto it. But once the train passes the signal, obviously the signal will be green. When the train passes, it will automatically go red, and then it will release the block previous to it and then create a block on the next section, and so on. So this will allow you to create what's known as block signaling, to be able to run 2 or more trains on a single line like that. As for right now, what we can do is we can do this approach with an up and down line, which is actually a bit more efficient. because it'd be done with no signals whatsoever. And if we build a train, I'll do this just with locos. So if I set a route, oh, no, that's me building track. If I set a route for this train into that station there and depart, and then once that's left I can build another locomotive, and then we'll put this one into that platform. Notice how this train has gone yellow as if it's in set route mode, but it's not. It's actually waiting for a clear path. Now this wasn't in last week. This is a new feature I've been working on, in that trains will automatically not run into each other because they can't depart unless they've got a clear path, which is quite a cool feature. So right, now that train's done, we can route. So what we'll do is we'll have this as our up line, and we'll put that train into that platform, so we'll depart. Okay, so once the train's gone yellow, it means the train's basically waiting. It's being, it's being told what to do. So as you can see, that's on its way. And then we'll put this one into that platform, and then once this train gets clearance, it'll go straight in. Obviously we could just run this train down that line and this train down that line. You could, but this is just a very basic example of what can be done. Obviously it can be a lot more complex than this, but the main thing I'm trying to get at here is that you can run multiple trains into multiple platforms, down various routes, and they won't run into each other, which is obviously a good thing, because we do want to try and make it somewhat realistic. So there we go, and then we'll put this train back into that platform. There we go. I'm not sure. No, that didn't set. Depart. There we go. Cool. And then you can, once you've done that, then you can put the trains into auto, and they will, even in automatic mode, they will follow the same rules, so that they will set themselves the routes that you've put them on, but they'll only be allowed to depart when the route is clear. This is where signalling will actually come into play. When you place signals, the train will be allowed to depart up to the signal, as in to create a block section up to that signal. At the moment it has to have a clear path along its entire route, obviously because there's no signals. So we'll put this train down there, and we'll put that into automatic. There we go. And you can see that train's then just departed straight away. Because it's just a locomotive, there was no loading time, almost. Okay, so as you can pretty much see, that's exactly how that works. Right, this is still running over here. I wonder how much multiply, it tells me it's done. Wow. 5 million. Yeah, this is definitely wrong. I'll look into that straight away. Yeah, so what I can tell is the amount of cargo actually coming into the station, by the looks of it, looks to be correct. Yeah, this number's that's correct. This number's correct, but this number's way off, so something's going wrong with that calculation there. It should be a relatively easy fix. I think I can probably get on that straight away. Okay, so we've been running the sugarcane for a while now, so as you can see it's gone up now. It's $129 per ton, so we're earning a nice amount of money from this, which is pretty good. Okay, obviously this quantity of game objects is what we start off with. It's completely random every time we start the game, but the way it works is there are areas on the map that you can expand into, okay, and it's completely random and unknown. I couldn't even tell you where they are because it's completely random every time you play the game, but there are areas on the map you'll expand into where it will form new towns, and in doing so the map will expand beyond this border, both to the south and to the east, and then when it does that, then it will discover new industries and new raw materials. So the map will actually just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. In fact, there's no limit on how big it can get. The limit is just on, you know, how long you play the game for, and at the moment the inability to save it. Now, someone did mention on YouTube that brought up the inability to save the game at the moment. So there's two things that I can say with that. I haven't built the save feature yet, but it is on my list of things to do, and a save game feature most definitely will be going in. For the time being, what you can do is you can actually leave the game. Say for example I come over to Reddit like this, for example, the game will actually pause. Okay, while I'm busy doing something else, the game will pause, and what happens is when I go back, you might see a quick flash, and that's just the game resuming. So if you're playing a game for a while, if you leave your browser window open, the game will pause, and you know the economy won't change, you know your money, that'll stay the same. The only time it won't, the only time the game doesn't pause, is if you've got a negative balance. If you've got a negative balance, then the game won't pause. Well, that's not true. The game itself will pause, so the trains won't run and the economy won't fluctuate, but your balance will still accrue interest if it's negative, just on the way it's, you know, sort of been coded up in that way, if you like. Right, so yeah, so that's pretty much where we are at the moment with RailSIM. Like I said, a lot of my time this weekend has been revolved around getting these extra industries in. What you see on the screen at the moment is only a fraction of the total amount of industries available, because the game only loads so many on a new map. Again, it's completely random, and when the map expands, you'll get a random selection of industries and raw materials and what have you. So every time you play the game from new, you'll have a completely random selection of stuff to look at. So yeah, so that's pretty much. Don't forget to share the video, do all the like, subscribe stuff on YouTube as you normally do. Join the Reddit community. I'm going to be releasing another dev poll, number 2, next week. I'll carry over the rewriting the signaling function because obviously it was voted reasonably highly. So I'll put that in with a mix of other things. You can only put in, I think it's 6 options on Reddit for a poll. So I'll go through my dev project and I'll pick up some things that I think I can get implemented by the end of next week, and I'll put them together in a poll, including the the signaling function, and we'll run a poll again next week, and I'll try and get some more stuff implemented by the end of next week. Do if you can, do take part in the the comments for the poll, to give your feedback on RailSIM, because it is really important. If you read through the comments, you'll notice that obviously I've been involved and responding, and if it's a good suggestion, it'll more than likely be something I can put in straight away, which I'll do, and if I do that, I'll give you guys an update straight away. Throughout the week I will try and post little bits of updates, screenshots and short little videos of stuff I'm working on, just to keep you guys up to date. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Don't forget, you can get access to RailSIM if you want to become a beta tester. All you need to do is support the RailSIM project through our Patreon page. Just go to patreon.com/RailSIM. You can support RailSIM from just $5 a month. It gives you full, complete access to the current beta version, so you get the exact same version that I'm currently working on. So any new features that I'm putting in throughout the week, you'll have instant access to those. So yeah, if you're interested, do that. If not, then just keep supporting RailSIM by subscribing to the YouTube channel and to the Reddit community as well, and just staying involved by giving your feedback on how you'd like to see the game progress further. Right, I think I'm going to wrap it up there, guys, and I'll get this video up on YouTube ASAP. Right, take it easy, and I'll catch up with you guys next week.